Triceps are a mother. People often find themselves having trouble with isolation. Even if you're doing an isolation movement, the pecs, shoulders, back feel like they're doing so much work just to keep the gosh darn joints in place. People have trouble with elbow pain, with proprioception. And as soothing as it is to repeat, keep it simple, stupid, every time you get frustrated with your lack of arm growth, the truth is sometimes a little bit of wizardry is needed to get the ball rolling. And given that the triceps are arguably the crux of your entire upper body, you don't really have a choice. They're said to make up 2/3 of your arm girth. And they're absolutely crucial in moving weight in any pressing movement. Even if you would theoretically settle for string bean tries in exchange for big shoulders and pecs, good frickin' luck. It's hard to build a pigeon chest with arms that look like pigeon legs. But don't fret, I'm here to give you the industry tricks to help you out with some hacks, some shortcuts. We're gonna make sure that we get those skinny little back arms taken care of. These are 4 stupid things I did to grow my triceps. Now I always have to clarify who this is for because unfortunately the strength bros and the hypertrophy nerds are still divided. They have yet to come together under one flag, realizing that they are all after the same truth, and that is gains. As a strongman competitor, most of my tricep anxiety came from trying to develop back arms that were sufficient enough to lock out 400-pound logs. So I needed them stronger, certainly, but I also did need them bigger. And given that 10 years of strongman takes a toll on the body equivalent to 1 full day at Magic Mountain, my shoulders had undergone some damage, and the scar tissue and instability really made targeting my triceps a chore. I even had labrum tears that were so bad I physically couldn't hold myself in a push-up position. So one of the first things I had to do was eliminate the pressure to find a perfect rep. I knew that I wasn't going to be loading up my triceps with a lot of weight and grinding through sets to and beyond failure. I had to find other methods. One of the best ways to bypass pain is to find ways to make less weight work for you, and the blood flow that you cram into your upper arms before the real heavy sets makes that pain just slide away. Now, one of my favorite methods is to do bicep work first. The pump you get from hard bicep work before you go to do tricep work, it's like resting your head on the bosom of an elderly nun. You can schedule a singular arm day doing your biceps first, or you can superset them together. But recognize that blood flow is key. It not only carries a training effect, but it makes it easier to get into the weeds on the harder exercises. Another method to pre-pump is to start with lighter, friendlier tricep movements, typically that emphasize the contracted position. I have no idea what the mechanics are that make contraction biased work drive in more blood to the muscle, but it seems to just be that way. Anything that loads the contracted position, like banded press downs, or anything that puts your tricep in the most fully contracted position where your hand is behind you, like bench dips and kickbacks, they're all great options, and you don't have to go crazy. Start out with a few sets of high reps, I mean 20 or more. Now I really like this approach for 3 reasons. Number 1, it helps with pain. Number 2, it helps with proprioception. After one of these sets, your triceps end up all like twitchy and bouncy, like your pecs after a bench marathon. It improves mind-muscle connection, and it adds something to the following exercise. And reason number 3 is that the muscles are going to be a bit tired, so you don't need to load up your tendons and dodgy joints with maximal pig weight in order to get a stimulus. Thing number 2 is to overload the top. In the face of a few injuries that turned my ball and socket joint into a ball and bucket, lockouts were integral in restoring security in my very loose shoulder joints. You can start out with simple lockouts and isometric holds. Your goal is to progress not just the amount of weight, but the amount of time that you can hold that weight in a locked out position without any pain. A great option for this is something like a close grip pin press, locking out the top 2 or 3 inches and then holding for time. As you find those metrics improve and you're pain-free, then you can start to hold for time lower positions where the elbows are more disadvantaged. If you get to the point where you can take a close grip and hold your bench max a couple of inches from lockout for an extended period of time and do it without pain, not only does that mean that your tendons have adapted to the load and tricep work should be just run of the mill at this point, but it also means that you're much stronger and your shoulder joints are going to be much more stable. And it makes your bench go up, which is pretty cool. And if you also want to feel your triceps cramp up while you're doing this, give weighted dip holds a try. As you get bigger, stronger, more advanced, it becomes harder to tick those numbers forward, and you can't get by not adjusting your workouts to your own particular tolerances. Now, most people get an online coach to take care of that for them to the tune of $200 to $300 a month, and the rest of the people just never figure it out to begin with. BaseStrengthAI uses 3 of the most proven templates pulled from the principles of some of the biggest, strongest men in history that have been used for over a century. The workouts are fun, intuitive, there's a logical progression, but it does take it up a notch because it personalizes the workouts to you. So if you're wondering why you start every training cycle super excited only to get several weeks in, feel brittle, overtrained, tired, disillusioned, like you're just a dodgeball and the program is the side of a building, then you need direction that updates your training minute to minute, day to day, week to week based on your immediate feedback. BaseStrengthAI takes the guesswork out of training, and it does what only an online coach can do, which is personalize the program to you at 1/10 of the cost. Yes, 1/10 of the cost. So jump on the heart and soul of old school training. It's my programming, but it is your program and you cannot get that anywhere else. Hit up basestrength.com today to get started on your gains. Number 3, increase stability. This is another point where triceps are a pain in the ass because where pulling movements like curling and rowing are stable, and pressing movements tend to be somewhat stable, tricep extensions tend to be more unstable, especially as you start to fatigue. I mean, just think about what it feels like to fight through that sticky midpoint on a 5-second grinder on a preacher curl and compare that to what it feels like when you're stuck on a press down or a skull crusher. Because the tricep also crosses the shoulder joint, it's responsible for stability. And as the tricep fatigues, you tend to lose a bit of that, and that can be a problem, especially if you have shoulder issues like I did. Every time I'd get fatigued on a French press or a skull crusher, in fact, on most cable isolation movements, I didn't feel the strain in my triceps, I just felt my shoulders wanting to detach from my torso. So one of the most productive things I've ever done, which took my overhead strict pressing like just crazy next level, was to spam the neutral grip padded tricep extension machine. Now this hurt my heart a little bit because I like to think of myself as an equipment minimalist. When I do dumbbells, I feel like I'm cheating on the barbell. But it's also foolish when you have tools to solve a problem and you decide not to use them, so I used it and it paid dividends. Now the machine had the benefit of a cam, so it wasn't biased towards the lockout, the mid-range, or the stretch position. Every point of the movement was about as difficult as the next point. So you get a lot more even stimulus and there's no coasting or building up momentum through the movement. But the real magic, what really allowed me to get into the weeds and get my triceps stimulated in a way I never could before, was the fact that I had a pad to plant my elbows on so I could just push. This solved a really big problem for me, and it's one that seems to be more specific to triceps than anything else. Now, you don't need to have a machine, and God help you, don't be the guy that brings a seatbelt to the gym. You just need to have some of your heavy tricep work done with a more stable variation. One of the most underrated tools in the gym that helps directly with stability and probably benefits the triceps more than any other movement is the Smith machine. In fact, Smith machine JM presses were one of the pet movements of bench phenom Eric Spoto, and he would do it with just ungodly weight. Each rep has a more consistent path, and when you start to struggle, you can blank out and just push, and that last rep is turned into just a completely different animal. Don't get sucked into the trap of thinking that the only way you grow your triceps is through a pure elbow extension where the muscle is absolutely isolated. That's actually the opposite of what you need to be doing. You want movements where the muscle is strained with a lot of weight and where you are more stable, and this is going to happen the most in compound movements. Now, dips are another option, as the dips hit the triceps plenty, but they are more of a pressing movement, so again, they are more stable than just a pure extension. Now, people will gasp, but doing partials, limiting the range of motion, not to the lengthened position, but to the contracted position, is actually very productive. There's no rule that says every single rep has to be full range. And I challenge you to max out quarter rep dips on parallel bars and look at me with a straight face and tell me that you feel like it was a waste of time. Mix your full range stretch work with something like high rep quarter dips and you'll be astonished at what happens. In fact, I challenge you to do that, max out those reps, and then look me in the face and tell me that it was a waste of time. Now, if you're really schizo about range of motion, you can't bring yourself to do an actual set of partials, try something like 1 1/4 reps. A full dip followed by a quarter rep, that is 1 rep. Take that to failure. Godspeed. Thing number 4, supersets. Now, supersets are by no means required. If you can handle heavy tricep biased work and progress, get those vinegar strokes in with those effective reps at the end, you can grind, you can place all the mechanical tension right where you want it, and you have no issues, then just go about doing that. This is probably overkill. But supersets are not only fun, they are a very effective way to get around a lot of the issues that people have when it comes to tricep development. Now, don't just go pick two random things and stack them together. If you're just thinking about it from the standpoint of just keep going, I'm going to do this exercise till I can't, then I'm going to do something else, you could really just do a drop set with the same exercise. The idea here is that different movement patterns are going to allow a more thorough stimulus. And we can use lighter and friendlier movements to drive in blood, drop the weight we need for the following exercise, and keep volume and density higher, which is going to make growth more certain. So my recommendation is to pair movements with a different emphasis. Two of the easiest categories to think about are stability and length. So I like to do supersets that go from unstable to stable. Something more unstable is going to be like unilateral work, it's going to be free weight or cable work, and something stable is going to require both arms and be on ideally a fixed apparatus like a Smith machine or a regular machine. It could be a kickback into a one-arm extension, or a one-arm extension into a skull crusher, or a skull crusher into dips. It doesn't matter as long as the second exercise grants you substantially more stability than you started with, which allows you to just really leave it all out at the end of the superset. As far as length goes, I like to go from lengthened positions to squeezed positions. The triceps will be lengthened as the upper arm goes up over the head. So you can do an unstable stretch like a French press or a dumbbell overhead extension or some type of incline or cheated skull crusher, and you can take that into a stable squeeze like a machine tricep extension, a flat or decline skull crusher or JM press. If you can do it on a Smith machine, all the better. Or you can really load it up on seated or machine dips. As a rule of thumb, I like to stop at like an 8 out of 10 on the first exercise and then take it just way into the weeds on the second one. But as your capacity improves, you might find that you're able to just put your headphones in, turn on the sad girl music, and let it rip. So that's all I got for today, guys. These are 4 stupid things I did for my triceps. Let me know what you think in the comments. Thanks so much for watching. Till next time, this is Bromley. I'll see you.